So it's become kind of a trend to be a fan of villains lately, whether they're actually evil or just the antagonists to whoever the hero of the story may be. The first, and I'm not sure why, character that came to my mind was Sharpay from High School Musical. Now, I actually haven't seen the series, but I do know two things. Sharpay was meant to be the stereotypical bitch, a sort of villain, and yet she's somehow emerged a fan favorite. This leads into my idea that while consuming media, we're able to suspend our disbelief concerning morals and ethics, and instead view characters in a much more flexible manner. This way, we perceive and judge their actions on a different scale than we would in real life. The character might do something really shitty and unforgivable, but the hatred we feel towards them just isn't on scale. I think the way a show sets up not only the stakes in their narrative, but also the tone, relationships, and lore all factor into how we feel towards the characters. In short, we may say, ugh, I hate this character, but what we really mean is, I hate how much I love them and I want them to step on me. Or we could say, ugh, I hate this character, and it's Mineta from My Hero Academia, and we really actually do hate him. As I sit here and try to shove my character opinions down your throat, I'm masquerading this video as an argument that we feel different forms of hatred towards characters. First off, even though I say Sharpay is well loved, I do think this love rides on the audience's understanding that her actions are objectively not great. However, a diva high schooler isn't a huge threat, and no movie with teens breaking into song and dance in the middle of the cafeteria is going to have an actual villain like, I don't know, Thanos. Like, let's take Skeletor from He-Man, for example. I remember watching a documentary where a writer, question mark, said that they couldn't keep having Skeletor chasing He-Man because he would never actually get to kill him. The show had low stakes, which makes sense because it was targeted towards children in the 80s. But this makes it easier to hate Skeletor in a relaxed manner and recognize his humor above all else. Of course, a lot factors into how we receive characters. Who are you, the viewer? What time period was this written in? Are there actual outcomes and consequences to the character's behavior? Are you a closeted furry with a boob window kink who will stand a bitch no matter how evil she is? At the end of the day, there is no one way we're going to hate every hateable character. And yes, I'm using the made-up word hateable, deal with it. So I present to you my list of different ways to hate characters. You're welcome. Characters that you love to hate and love to love. Okay, so this is often the category I turn to for what I would consider well-written villains, which, because I'm basic, I'll consider Azula to be. Azula is a villain, no doubts about it, and her actions justify the audience's hatred towards her. However, like most characters within the Last Airbender series, she's complex, aka Azula is #deep. In kid shows, the baddies are often mustache-twirling adults whose motive is to be evil for the sake of being evil, and yes, this is a call-out post for Ozai. However, the show's great choice to use a young antagonist to actively combat the gang as Ozai broods in the Fire Nation provides great opportunities. On top of this, Azula is Zuko's sister from back in Sigma Fire Delta, creating a lot of material to make her a very hateable character. Remember the word hateable? Bringing it back. Let's think about the beach episode. Azula admits her mother neglected her and assumed she'd grow up to be a monster, almost like the role was created for her before she grew up.
Well, yes, I guess you're right. I don't have sob stories like all of you. I could sit here and complain how our mom liked Zuko more than me, but I don't really care. My own mother thought I was a monster. She was right, of course, but it still hurt.
This is confirmed in the finale when Azula confronts her mother in the reflection, demonstrating that her villainy isn't for the sake of just being evil. She wanted power to force respect and acceptance. Zuko and Azula parallel each other remarkably this way. Azula's drive for power parallels Zuko's drive for honor, both forming from mommy and daddy issues. Nice. This leads to the audience feeling different forms of hatred towards them. We hate Azula more genuinely, or afraid of her, but because of how terrifying she is, we appreciate that the writers can make us feel this way. We love her role as the villain.
I'm afraid the tides will not allow us to bring the ship into port before nightfall.
I'm sorry, Captain, but I do not know much about the tides. Can you explain something to me?
Of course, Your Highness.
Do the tides command this ship?
I'm afraid I don't understand.
You said the tides would not allow us to bring the ship in. Do the tides command this ship?
No, Princess.
And if I were to have you thrown overboard, would the tides think twice about smashing you against the rocky shore?
No, Princess.
Well then, maybe you should worry less about the tides, who've already made up their mind about killing you, and worry more about me, who's still mulling it over.
I'll pull us in.
I get actual chills. With Zuko, We hate his shit decisions because we know he can do better. We know what he's capable of. We hate him in his darkest moments because we want him to be the hero. With Azula, we know this isn't an option. Maybe it's how she's written, or maybe it's because despite how complex Avatar is, they still make it rather clear that she's not going to join the side of good. Another character that fits this you love to hate and love to love role is Catra from She-Ra. Some people may argue that she technically isn't a villain, although she did try to destroy the universe for the sake of petty revenge against her ex-girlfriend, but that doesn't take away from the fact that we love to hate her. Like Azula, Catra has given reasons for her behavior, the emotional abuse she faced from Shadow Weaver, and what she considers abandonment from Adora. These explain her actions. And to clarify, explanation does not equal excuse. But because we have this hint of empathy, we no longer classify these characters as mustache-twirling bad guys with no purpose or reason for their evilness. Instead, their complex attachment to humanity is the very thing that makes their abandonment of it so fun to hate. This is being recorded before Season 5's release, so I'm only going to go off my assumptions when I say Catra is probably going to wander over to the side of good and join her girlfriend and the Wonder Pals. But for now, she is just a character I hate. I mean, she didn't seem to give a fuck when the town was being raided, nor did she give a fuck about Scorpia. Like, ever.
You're a bad friend.
But she still has moments of insecurity and struggles with her humanity, meaning she chooses to act like this, making it easier to hate her in a personal way compared to characters who scream, "I'm evil, look how evil I am as I perform evil deeds." Characters you hate because they suck. To clarify, this doesn't mean they're poorly written. In fact, it's usually the intention of the writer for us to hate these characters, but boy, do they grind my gears. I'm about to sound super hypocritical too, because the first character I want to talk about reminds me a lot of Catra, Terra from the original Teen Titans. And yes, maybe my 5-year-old self was a lot more inclined to hate the baddies and love the goodies because of my impressionable mindset, but I've rewatched Teen Titans at least twice since my time watching it in kindergarten, and I still hate her. I think she's well written, especially for a show aimed towards kids, but I hate her. So let's review kitties. Terra shows up, befriends the Teen Titans. She can't control her rock powers, Toph can't relate, and asks Beast Boy not to tell the others, despite how obvious it is that she can't control them. Robin makes a passing comment about her having to make better control of her powers, and she flips out without letting the team explain, having thought our local green bean spilled the beans. She flees into the sunset. Later, she comes back, has her powers down pat, and is like, "Hey, I'm here to sit at your lunch table, move over." And everyone is super chill, except for Raven, because she's a local goth, and Robin, because he's skeptical. However, she gains their trust until it turns out she's working for megavillain Slade, and while she's on her little date with Beast Boy, Slade bots invade the tower and try to kill them. Just friend things. Haha. She comes back as a megavillain cosplaying as toilet paper and shows no mercy as she tries to kill them. They come back because, kid show and heroes, and she turns to Slade for help when she starts getting her ass kicked. He gets salty, and suddenly she's regretting spaghetti with her life choices, and the team is justifiably not feeling the love. However, after realizing she's going to die no matter what, she decides to let the others escape and turns into a rock. Nice. Now I want to stress her line, stated under the impression that she had already murdered all of them.
I have done horrible things, and I have absolutely no regrets.
Doesn't feel too morally gray. I think this is where my hatred from her diverges from my hatred for Catra. Catra has reasons for her actions, whereas Terra seems to just make bad decisions. To be honest, I think flying around saying you're chill with having 1v1 murdered the people who supported you is a little, rude. Maybe it's because Terra isn't a continuous character like Catra, so I don't get to see her side of the story or her inner thoughts, but I just hate her. I think it was great how the writers handled her death. Yes, I'm purposely forgetting that last episode. So even if I hate Terra, I feel like her and made sense and validated the judgmental bitch inside of me. Oh wait, that's just me. Another character I hate just because they suck is, and in a less ambiguous sense, Viren from Dragon Prince. He's selfish, willing to sacrifice others for his own gain, and after a while gets a little mustache twirly. I'm trying not to conflate mustache twirly with bad writing, even if there's often an overlap, because I don't think Viren is a poorly written character. But I do have no remorse over my hatred towards him. In fact, I was hoping that Soren would end his ass right then and there, but Claudia had to go and be a simp for Daddy. He's just not a nice dude. His actions grow more and more glaringly reprehensible as the show goes on, and while I understand this is probably the show's intention, I hate him because he is hateable. Simple as that. Characters you hate and can never unhate, or #cancelled. This is kind of just the more intense version of the last section, with characters whose hateable characteristics mirror more real-life topics. To be clear, while I can suspend my disbelief for characters like Gaara in universes where murder is a minor thing, there are characters whose actions are irredeemable, and we hate them for all time. Before, when I mentioned Viren and Terra, yeah, they're evil, but it doesn't hit too hard. I mean, Viren is predictable and Terra tried to make up for her mistakes in the end. But sometimes characters are just plain oof. Example 1, Adam Taurus. His incel ass is gross, and we hate him because he personally antagonizes our favorite local cat girl. Since we, loving fans, care for Blake and see emotional trauma he's forced onto her, we don't feel too bad when he dives in for a light summer dip. Sure, he has explanations. Remember, not excuses for his actions, but his actions as an abusive asshat are too real, making him a character who we could never forgive.
You didn't leave scars. You just left me alone.
Okay, so this one seems like a silly placement, but I'll die on this hill. Ross from Friends. I think that my hatred for him is so irreversible because of the fact he's framed as a good guy. He does stuff like cheat, date away younger student, lie about getting an annulment, not hire a nanny because he's a man, mark his territory with Rachel, make a dehumanizing list about her, and yet at the end of the show we're supposed to be thrilled that she gives up her dream job to be with him. He acts entitled and rude throughout the entire series. And wait, didn't he want to fuck his cousin? Yeah, I think what makes him so horrible is how he's meant to be a nice, relatable guy. And if you do relate to Ross, please seek help. He's not peak performance. He's easy to hate because he's an adult who never faces the consequences for his actions and doesn't seem to regret them. He portrays bad traits that are prevalent in the real world, like Adam does, which makes their villainy hit closer to home. That's right, Ross, you're worse than that evil dude who's willing to risk his son for an egg. Shame on you. Characters you hate with expectations. To summarize, this is the relationship we all had with Season 1 Zuko. You look into his little baby face with his little baby ponytail and say, you suck, but I fucking know I'm going to like you eventually, so I'm leaving a little spot in my heart open for you. Since I already covered Zuko, another character who falls into this category is Weiss from RWBY. Weiss is kind of the worst for the first 3 seasons, but as we watch her slowly grow, we just know they're setting her up to be best girl.
Ruby?
Uh-huh.
I always wanted bunk beds as a kid.
This growth is part of the reason we love these types of characters so much, because growth is something individuals strive for. Season 1 Weiss is the worst. The definition of, hey, I'm the 1%, and
I'm a victim!
Yikes. But as you see her slowly recognize her faults, you fucking know she's going to steal your heart, even as she continuously falls back time and time again. I mean, after watching Naruto, you kind of accept that animation can make you love any evil bitch if the writing goes hard enough. I mean, not the ones who aren't forgivable, or else that would negate my other thing, but whatever. The power of toying with your audience's emotions, my dudes. Call it post for future me. I know you love Catra now. I can feel it. You're fake. Characters you hate because of their writing. I'm definitely overstepping my boundaries here, but I have to say it. Sometimes we hate characters' writing more than the character themselves. And I've pissed off many anime fans with this opinion, but I think the biggest offender of this category is Sakura from Naruto. Or, most women from Naruto. I love the show. It's amazing. And I stand so many of the women. But can we admit that the writing is a bit sexist? There's so many Sakura's useless memes, but we never really confront the underlying issue that most of the women in the show are portrayed as such. And don't come at me with that, but Tsunade. Because to clarify, 1 or 2 strong female characters doesn't take away from the plethora of characters feeding into damsel in distress trope. For a great deal of the original show, Sakura is the only prominent female character, and boy is she annoying. Her whole personality revolves around wanting to smack lips with Mr. I Hate Everyone over here, and hating Naruto for virtually no reason. She's always in need of saving, and even her empowering moments are kind of fleeting before she, surprise surprise, needs saving. I started to vibe with her writing at the beginning of Shippuden, but then she kind of became ass again. I mean, I can't bring myself to hate Sakura because her character has so much potential. I just hate the way she's handled. This is coming from the back of my head, but I remember hating Andrea from The Walking Dead. I remember this being a common opinion too, and maybe it's because I stand her comic book counterpart way too hard, but the writing fell flat for me. My contempt wasn't in the character and her actions, but the lack of use of her potential. One last go at hurting all the hard stands out there. The last person I'm putting in this category is Frodo from Lord of the Rings. I want to like him. I hate him, but what I hate more is the way he's written. Like, dude, Samwise is literally carrying you through this journey. Stop being the worst. Characters you hate simply because they start shit. This seems too specific, but I swear so many characters fit into this role. Originally, I was going to use Ueno from A Silent Voice because, literally every time she comes into the scene, it ruins everything for everyone else. But then I thought she kind of fits more into one of those damn, you're a fucking villain categories. So instead, I'm going to use Sadness from Inside Out. Do you ever think, yeah, Sadness really hasn't done anything to make me hate her as a person or, whatever little blue person is? But that blueberry kind of just messes shit up. Like, every time she touches anything, you're like, please stop, you're ruining everything. And it's kind of a guilty sense of hatred because she's not necessarily a villain or an antagonist, but boy, ugh. If we're to separate Sakura from the previous category and consider her as a character and not her writing, she would definitely fit into this category. It gives us kind of hatred towards her that's more of a, oh my god, this is going to ruin things for everyone else. Please stop starting shit when you don't need to start shit. And we don't hate them because they're bad people or because they're villains. We hate these characters more because they just start shit. They're unnecessary. And normally this drives a decent portion of plot, which makes us wonder, why is this what's driving your plot? Sometimes these characters are the ones that grind my gears the most because you feel like you're not valid in actually hating them. Overall, the way we hate characters says a lot about the media that's presenting them. I think there are definitely more ways to hate characters that I haven't touched on, but this is all I really have for now, or all I have the energy to talk about. But if you can think of any other different ways you've hated characters, or whether or not you consider this a good way of writing, let me know. I'm very interested in this stuff.